My name's Octavio Casillas, and I'm an immigrant from Mexico. I came into the United States when I was 9 years old. My family and I immigrated. We crossed the river from El Juarez into El Paso at the age when I was 9 years old. I have very profound feelings about what's happening with our country and the discrimination that has always been present but has not been allowed to be exercised to the level that it's being exercised today, because in the past we had leadership in our country who did not support discrimination on basis of anything, and now my community and my people are under attack on the basis of immigration. But what people fail to understand is that we would come into the U.S. legally if the U.S. had a system in place that was not racist. But they don't have one in place that's not racist. You can apply for residency into the U.S., but it may be 20, 30 years before you're even given the opportunity to explain why you should be allowed to come into the U.S. You also must know somebody or have a jurisdictional hook into the U.S., which means you got to be related to somebody that lives in the U.S. in order for that person to be able to petition for you to come into the U.S. So if you don't have the fortune of knowing somebody in the U.S. or being related to somebody, in the U.S., then there's no way for you to get in here and be able to pursue the American dream legally. So we come into the country, but we're not criminals. Nonetheless, or al contraire, we're nothing but hardworking, decent people, family-oriented. I'm very proud of my mother and father who, although they broke United States laws by coming in illegally, they honored humanity by making sure their kids had a place to sleep and food on their table and clothes on their backs. So even though they broke laws, they're not criminals, because family comes first. And it's the way it should be throughout the country. Instead of being family oriented, we're separating families. We don't understand how lucky we are to be here, and those people who are born in the U.S., they're natural born citizens, and that are not of the Hispanic community, that oppose immigration and that actually are racist and discriminatory toward immigrants. You don't understand what it is to be an immigrant, and you're actually not qualified to make any judgment, because if your parents ever had to make the same decisions that my parents and many of our parents make about whether do I cross into the U.S. illegally and feed my kids, or do I stay in my country and be oppressed and not be able to provide a fair life or an adequate life for my kids, your parents would make the same decision that mine have made. The only fortune that you have is that, or misfortune, is that your parents have never had to face such a decision. But that's a misfortune, because you haven't had to suffer in order to learn and to be able to understand other life's stories and other life's experiences. And I'm fortunate because my parents had to face that decision, and they made the decision to bring my brother and my sisters into the U.S. We're all very good people to the U.S. We're good citizens. We're law-abiding people. We are very productive. We're great consumers and respectful people. So it's an honor for the U.S. to have us here, even though people say that it's not. But nonetheless, we've been privileged with the opportunity to suffer in life so that we can understand struggle and lend hand to those that struggle. So I'm proud of my students who didn't come to school today. I support them, and I hope that they continue to support their community and whatever their community needs. Even if they themselves have not suffered, they need to understand that suffrage is not something that you should have to go through in order to understand it. But if they have gone through it and they understand it, I'm proud of them for taking a stand. If they haven't gone through it but they're supporting it, I'm proud of them because they are being able to think for themselves and be respectful of everybody, regardless of age, race, gender, skin color, religion, gender, or anything that sets us apart. I hope that we find a way to unify and come together, because we are, after all, one people on one earth. And no matter how much we separate ourselves, at the end of the day, we're on the same place, on the same planet, by the same creator, and we should do nothing but get along.
I don't want you to go say that. That's what I'm saying. Don't act like a 5-year-old.
All right, so
Come on, Nicole. Look, he's being...
I think that Trump is dumb. Man, this is difficult.
okay, so what would you like to see change?
I like to see change that he do something right.
Like?
Well, like everyone to have equal rights and no like
Wars.
You don't want to see us go into war? Okay, thank you. One.
I think that it's not fair for those people that have been treated bad. I don't know what to say.
Treated badly how?
Like, with, you know how they put like in the airplane, they poison they put something on the grapes and all that. I think that it's not fair for those people that have been getting full of them, that have been getting sick with the
The pesticides?
yeah, pesticides.
Anything else to share?
No.
All right, thank you.
Today is January the 17th, 2017, and today is being called A Day Without an Immigrant. And hopefully as teachers, Mrs. Perez and I, we can make a difference on these young minds, these young people, and make a better positive tomorrow. Una, dos, tres.
¡Sí se puede!
Oh, come on, guys!
So my dad's mom had to cross the border to bring my dad and herself to a safer place so they can live. And they did get caught a couple times, so they couldn't cross, but they crossed one time and actually made it safe and sound.
My dad, he had to cross the border with me and my stepsister, and it was like really hard. And he said that when he crossed the river that it was like really hard because they caught him like 3 or 2 times, and he was like crying because he didn't want them to take me away from him.
Thursday, February 16, 2017. Today is a day without immigrants. We think that this is good, so we can show Donald Trump, our president, that without Hispanics, if there's no Hispanics, the people that work for the white people, just say that, they're not gonna have enough money. They're not gonna make enough money because us Hispanics work for the white people, and we're doing this to show Donald Trump what would happen if there was no immigrants. If there were no immigrants, I hope that the people who voted for Donald Trump will do our work, like go to the farms and pick their own food. Because without Mexicans, the white people the white people will not have food. So I hope that you learned a lesson that if one of the people who voted for Trump, if there were no Mexicans or immigrants doing farm work, labor work, or any work, they had to go to the farm and pick their own food.
In this country, we're all immigrants. We all come from somewhere else. We're not all from the United States. We're all immigrants. And I think as a country, we should stand together and be united and all live in peace.
My story begins when I was 3 years old. My father worked on the fields
in Las Cruces. Then he would go and work around 6 o'clock in the morning. He would come home around 5 or 6. Then one day, a bunch of police officers took him away from our home and took him because he did, I don't know what, I don't bother asking because I don't know. So then he went to jail for 3 years. Then after those 3 years, I was 5. He got deported. And now that I'm 11 years old, when I'm 18, I have to take him out. I'm gonna bring him back over here so he can turn his life around for my little sister. Not just for me, but for my kids and his kids. Because I appreciate all the things that he's done for us. We lived in hotels in Juarez when he got deported. Until we found a house. I'm trying hard not to cry because he wasn't there for us when we needed him. Because he never did anything wrong.
A day without immigrants to me would be like there wouldn't be as much jobs out there. Like there wouldn't be that much food, like harvesting, and this is affecting me mostly because my grandma, my great grandma came here, I believe, illegally. And I don't know the whole story, but like it's affecting me since I don't know half of my family since they're back in Mexico. I do know that half of my family, they do live in Chihuahua, and I've never met all of them completely. I've only met a couple of my cousins and a couple of my aunts, including one of my uncles. And the only time that they visit us is probably, I saw them a couple months ago, and then before that I saw them 3 years ago. So that's kind of affecting me because my family means a lot to me. And I don't know, this is really affecting us because we're kind of the next generation, and that's kind of putting a lot on us for having to deal with it.
Yo quisiera cambiar que nuestro presidente que está ahorita pudiera tomarnos como somos, no discriminarnos como otras personas con otras. Quisiera que todos seremos iguales y que nos apoyemos entre todos.
Hello, my name is Jesus Cruz, and I come to la Academia Dolores Huerta. Today, on this day, we've been talking about immigrants and all this. Some of my teachers and my principals, they told us what they went through, how they had to cross the river and they got caught, they had to go back. And then the immigrants, they suffered a lot. Coming from Mexico to over here, they expected a better life, and then hopefully they are getting one, but Donald Trump is trying to deport all of them, and I don't think that's fair, because not my teacher, but Ms. Perez said no one is an immigrant, and I believe because we're all people and we all should get the same rights.
Hi, my name is Jesus Prieto and I come to La Academia Dolores Huerta. Well, today on this day, we're talking about all the immigrants and how my principal, Mr. Casillas, how he had a rough, days, months, trying to come over here to New Mexico from Mexico, and how they got caught 2 times. And his mother had to carry his little brother that was 9 years old, and how he actually made it over here without dying. And my math teacher, Miss Gallegos, she was talking about her mom bleeding her hands just to bring her over here from Mexico to New Mexico so she could have a better life, make money, like all the other immigrants, how they come to the United States to have a better life than in Mexico with all the violence, all the drugs, all the killing. And over here, I say they're not gonna have a good life because how Donald Trump is trying to deport all of them back to Mexico where they live, and saying that they're bad people coming over here because they're criminals supposedly to him, but they're not criminals. They're just persons. They're people. They have a right to come over here no matter what.
My name is Thomas Tucker. I am in the 6th grade at La Academia de Lourdes Huerta. Today we were learning about immigrants. My principal told us about how he had to cross a river and how his mom was holding his little sister while they crossed a river to try and get to the U.S. And then my reading teacher said that her mom had bleeded her hands carrying her and her brother across the river to get here to New Mexico. And my theater teacher, Miss Pettit, said that all people should have the same rights because we're all equal.
I want to talk about also how my dad got here, my stepdad. My stepdad told me when he was 9 years old, I believe, he came here. He didn't go to the river. He told me he went over a mountain. But while he was trying to go over a mountain, he told me that people were shooting at him. And then, so honestly, if I had to go to that would be awful. And then Donald Trump is trying to deport him, but I don't think it's fair because I'm a U.S. citizen and he's taking care of me like if I'm his own son when I'm not. He's been there for me my whole life, well, mostly my whole life. He's honestly the reason I know how to use a rake, from the simplest things to the hardest, because my real dad didn't really help me. My stepdad, on the other hand, he helped me with everything. If it wasn't for him, I would be like a crybaby to this day. I just want to thank him because he went through all that and then he comes here and he takes care of 3 kids that aren't his, like if they are his. And he's like just always been there for me. He's a big influence. And I always look up to him for an example because him as an immigrant, it was hard for him to get a job. It was hard for him to get papers. It was hard for him to do everything he could. And it was hard for him to get a job. But luckily he did get a job. And then he takes care of me like his own son. And I just want to thank him so much for that. And yeah, Tom.
I want to talk about how my grandpa got here to America. He was in this program where he could come to do work in El Paso and Las Cruces. And he did it a few times. And one of the people that were like the managers at the work in El Paso or New Mexico said, "Do you want to stay here?" And he wanted to. So he helped him get a visa or pretty much a permit to live in the United States. And then he started bringing over my whole family. And that's how my grandpa got to the United States.
I'm gonna talk about a little bit about how I get here to the U.S. I had the opportunity to travel to El Paso and Las Cruces when I was in school. We received a couple of invitations to come and perform in El Paso. But also, I have a sister that used to live in Doña Ana, a little bit north from Las Cruces. And I came to visit her those 2 times when I have opportunity to go to El Paso. And then in June of 1978, my sister went to Chihuahua to visit. And I was attending a national conference in Mexico City. And when I came back from Mexico City to Chihuahua, my sister was there, and she asked me if I would like to come with her to accompany her, because she was having a little baby, and she didn't want to travel by herself. So I said, sure, I go with you. And but I was thinking just to come up to Juarez, not all the way to Las Cruces. So when I was in Juarez, my brother said, let's go to Las Cruces. And I said, well, this time I can't because I don't have my passport. And he said, well, let's find out how you can cross. And they took me to southeast from El Paso. And I crossed the river. Of course, the river didn't have any water, so I just jumped a little stream. But I didn't know that after the river there was a canal, and the canal was full of water and full of mud. So I jump into the canal, and I get with water almost to my waist, and I get all dirty. My clothes get all dirty, and my brother-in-law was already waiting for me on the other side. So I just get in the car, and we drove to Las Cruces. And well, after a couple of weeks in Doñana, but that time, back in '78, Doñana was a very small town. Even Las Cruces, at that time, there was only 30,000 people lived there in Las Cruces. Then I was there for a couple of weeks, and I just tell my sister, I'm ready to go back to Chihuahua. And then she tell me, why do you want to go? Just go work at the field. And I said, no, the migra's going to catch me. They said, well, that's okay. Did they catch you? They take you back to Juarez. They take you to El Paso and they let you go. And I said, no, I'm afraid. And so finally one day in the morning, they just, a friend of mine from Doñana, that they stopped by and picked me out and said, come on, let's go to work. So I went to work with them. And well, I worked for 6 weeks. And by September, I was ready to go back to Chihuahua, because I have a job at the schools, and I had to start classes after the 16 de septiembre. But the day before I was leaving, we went to Mesilla to the fiesta, the 16 de septiembre fiesta in Mesilla, and I had the opportunity to meet some of the people that used to dance with New Mexico State. There was students from the university and members from the community that was getting together, and they do some folklorico dances. So I have a chance to meet this wonderful person, Mr. Roberto Abarca, and he said, well, why don't you stay and wait? We can meet on Tuesday, and we can talk about the folklorico. And but I was leaving the next day, but he told me, that could be an opportunity for you. Stay, wait, and we can talk. So I was very undecided if I'm gonna stay or I'm gonna go back to Chihuahua. So I understand. So I was here already for 6 weeks, and I was ready to go back to Chihuahua. And then it was like I had to make a decision, because I know if I was gonna stay, I was gonna lose my job in Chihuahua and my girlfriend, and I was gonna be away from my family. And so I understand. I called my dad and tell him about I wasn't going back, and there must be an opportunity for me to work in Las Cruces. So I met with this guy on Wednesday, and he just told me, I just barely graduated from the Escuela Superior de Danza in Chihuahua, and he just told me, well, with everything that I'm pretty sure you can become someone here. You can make it, and we're gonna support you and help you out. At the beginning, there was not that much money involved, but I said little by little you can grow up, and you can have opportunity to work with a lot of people, and you can make your life. I'm pretty sure, but we support you. We're gonna help you. And so I understand the cruises. After I just crashed just for fun, and work, and that was back in 1978, and here I am, 39 years after, and keep working for my community. I grew up with the city of Las Cruces, from 30,000 now over 100, I believe, and offering my community everything that I know, and promoting and preserving the Mexican heritage culture through the dance. Thank you.